I welcome Danny Masters, CEO of CoinShares, who will be the moderator of panel number 1, and that we mentioned new kids in the blockchain. Then Alan Vey, CEO of Aventus, Lucas Vogelsang, CEO of Centrifuge, and David Pery, CIO of Zeitgeist.
Oh, there you are.
How are you?
David. Right. Good afternoon, everybody. Now, when Mark Cashier kindly asked me to moderate this fine panel, he told me that the range of understanding would be from low to high, and I think that's fine, but it makes the event a little bit more interesting. So, one of the things very important, you're going to hear a lot of information that you may not immediately process from these very intelligent guys. There'll be plenty of opportunity to follow up later, but you need your brains in the most functional form they can be. And I think the best way to do that is everyone should just say in one big voice after I count 3, Lugano, okay? 3, 2, 1, Lugano. I'll take that, that's good, okay. So, I'm Danny Masters. I'm not going to spend any time on myself, chairman of CoinShares. We're Europe's largest digital asset manager. We produce exchange-listed, exchange-traded products, both tracking cryptocurrencies and also tracking the equities that are related to blockchain technology. We have about $8 billion under management, and we are based primarily in Jersey and the Channel Islands. So that being said, we are here with this fine panel to talk about what some of the real leaders and thought leaders and doers in the Web3 space are up to. And some of you may not be totally familiar with the term Web3. So if I can summarize that in the briefest possible way, Web3 is a version of the internet where you can read, you can write, and you can own. And how do you know you're in Web3? Well, if your browser is Web3 enabled and it's asking you to connect your wallet to your browser, then you know you're in Web3. And anybody that hasn't done that, yet, it will be homework. Hello. So, let's move along. I'm delighted to present you today with 3 leaders here in the space. David Pery, I believe, has traveled from the United States.
Hello.
Lucas Vogelsang, and a good old friend of mine, Alan Vey. So we're going to kick off. If I can ask you guys just to keep this to a minute and a half. Let's hear about you and briefly about what it is you do in the space. Alan, why don't you kick off?
Yeah, so, hey everyone. I am the CEO and founder of Aventus. Aventus is a layer 2 blockchain on Ethereum today. What that means is we do scalability, fast confirmations of transactions, and all of this very cost effectively and predictably so in terms of the fees. We're now also looking more and more into interoperability and how we can plug into a wider ecosystem of interoperability, and that's really why I'm here today with our partnership with Scytale. We're looking at moving from deriving our security from Ethereum to deriving security from Polkadot and becoming a parachain. So, yeah, that's a little bit about us.
Okay, thank you.
Hi, my name is Lucas Vogelsang. Almost local. I'm Swiss, and after about 10 years of Silicon Valley and Berlin, I'm back here now, although in Engadin, not in Lugano, although the weather is also quite nice here. My background and sort of what Centrifuge does actually quite intertwined in 2017 when I started getting into crypto. My motivation was to I came out of the fintech space, so my motivation was to how do we fix all these problems that all kinds of businesses interacting with finance had that I was aware of at the time. And a big thing that I saw is just sort of how finance works at some of the largest companies in the world to what it looks like for an SME, for individuals who might not fit into one of those very well-established categories where large banks already are serving them. And so over that time, since 2017, that was Ethereum was just becoming a bit more popular. Right now, we have DeFi, and actually an idea of where how this change in technology will actually manifest itself. DeFi is going to be in my opinion, the underlying infrastructure that replaces a lot of what banks today do with mainframes, back-end infrastructure, lawyers, centralized exchanges. And what we're doing is we're sort of bringing that technology to what we call real-world assets, or rather we're bringing real-world assets to DeFi and allowing people to use this as an infrastructure to borrow and lend against real estate, trade finance, really any kind of asset class.
And I'm David Pery, CAO and co-founder of a company called Zeitgeist, which is a prediction market platform on Kusama. And just briefly, my background is as a technologist and entrepreneur. In 2004, I started a prediction market software company. And to drive adoption, prediction markets, if you're not familiar, is a very powerful mechanism for aggregating information to inform decision making. And so GE was our first customer. We worked with several dozen Fortune 500 size and other governments to develop and operate prediction markets. After that, so I left that company in around the 2011 timeframe and built a next-gen prediction market software using combinatorics and Bayes nets for kind of a composable prediction market, if you will, and then got professionally involved in the blockchain space in 2016. And so Zeitgeist is about a one-year-old company at this point. We're building a platform, but importantly also applications. Robin Hansen is the father of prediction markets. We worked closely together. He was the chief scientist of the company I founded, and he's also leading a project on Zeitgeist. I started the company along with Logan Sather and Hutch, Chris Hutchinson, we all call him Hutch, two people that used to work for the Web3 Foundation. And so we are building out this ecosystem, apps that we develop, as well as fostering the ecosystem, and specifically around this mechanism that Robin developed called futarchy, which is a way to use markets to improve decision making. Super excited about it.
Thank you. Thank you. Well, as you can see, a very cutting edge and a very diverse collection of entrepreneurs we have been fortunate to have in front of us. So I just want to revert back to Lucas quickly and expand on a little bit of what you said. Now, we all know what banks are like, with the exception of Bank International Luxembourg, who are fantastic. But look, we all know, post-2008 world financial crisis, and with capital requirements, Basel II, Basel III coming along, I think we've all heard about how SMEs and small businesses have had a hard time raising capital. So tell me about what they tell you when they hear about you. Tell me about what their reaction is to this basically completely orthogonal opportunity. And then I'd love you to touch for the audience just on entirely new type of revenue that can be securitized. I know you do gig economy payments, something I've actually been exposed to ironically before, and I think that would be an interesting comment too.
Yeah, so I mean, ultimately maybe to give context, right, like what we're trying to do is we're trying to disintermediate, open up, and bring new assets into DeFi at a lower cost, at like a scale where, like today in the legacy world, you can't do that. Now, why is this interesting, or like who are these people that are sort of coming to us and see, okay, like we'd like to start working with Centrifuge? If you're a fintech or a lending business, right, and you have $1 million in a lending book of $1 million, no one will talk to you. If you have $10 million, no one will talk to you. If you have $100 million, no one will talk to you. If you have $500 million, people will start talking to you. If you have $1 billion, you'll have people run down your doors trying to buy your assets. Overly simplified, right? I think in sort of like this world of like accessing credit today, the market is like you're either working in one of those very large buckets. There's a liquid market, you can access it. You are big enough to do that, and you're able to like get different banks funds to sort of compete for your assets, or you're not, and then usually you're spending your first couple of years of your business to actually just like start to build a relationship with your bank and then like maybe get a small line of credit and still being completely dependent on your one bank that is banking you, and then like you're sort of growing it from there, right? And so the most interesting thing is actually not even like cost. A lot of times it's just the fact that like businesses are often just reliant on their single house bank that they want to get rid of, and they see sort of DeFi as a way to bring in different new sources of liquidity to start actually like going from I have one line of credit, I have one way to get money to fund my users, to I now have like something that's much closer to a bit of a market, right? And actually, my belief is in the long run, we can see liquid markets in asset classes that are significantly smaller, because what we're doing with crypto and with DeFi is throwing out a large part of the intermediaries that started with serving some good purpose, transfer agents, custodians, lawyers, right, that are now actually replaced with code. And that's really like where the conversation usually starts.
Awesome. Okay. So to David, now again, the concept of prediction markets might not be familiar to everybody, and not totally familiar to me either, I would say. But where I've come across prediction markets in the past is where you sort of have, Donald Trump versus Joe Biden. They start with 50 cents each, and at the end, then they go 75, 25, 25, 75, and in the end, when the event's done, somebody was worth $1. And I think that's that type of idea has been distributed in many different ways. On your website, which is very cool, everyone should look at it. You talk about futarchy, and that seems to be have a much wider social context and a much wider social meaning. So you talk about what that word means and how you weave that into your business plan.
Sure. So futarchy is a governance mechanism. So basically, as you pointed out, you can speculative markets have been around for quite a while, and futarchy is the idea that with speculative markets they sort of throw off information as a byproduct, and futarchy is markets designed on purpose to produce information. So they're also called decision markets when they're applied to governance. We use the name futarchy, but we're talking about markets set up for the explicit reason of generating policy advice. And so a company can ask, if we, decision contingent outcome, like what would happen if we did this? We want this outcome. We have a few different options for how to get there, and you can put that kind of question to the market, like which advertising firm should we hire? We're looking for this kind of engagement or whatever other kind of business outcome you're looking for. Markets are the best mechanism that we know of empirically in the lab. There's just a wide body of research to demonstrate how robust they are in aggregating information efficiently. And so, futarchy is a way to have markets help inform these and ultimately even make binding decisions on chain, based on the outcome of the trading.
Just rattle through really quickly the headlines of weather, politics. Give us a few other markets that you would predict.
Yeah. So resource allocation questions, project management is a huge area. So if you've got a large, long horizon, very expensive project of like, will this $200 million effort ship on time? You've got this multi-year program. You've got a lot of people, a lot of hierarchy built in there necessarily to help manage that process. And as you can imagine, bad news does not surface so easily. So when there's a delay, it's hidden. It's shifted off to people kind of blaming other people for their mistakes. So prediction markets surface this information of allowing people to put their money where their mouth is, and despite their role or position in the organization, they can actually tell what they know. And importantly, if they don't know, they're incentivized to shut up. So that's a very useful aspect. The other side of markets is getting people to be quiet when they actually don't have any value to add.
Awesome, thank you. So now, Alan. Alan and I have been friends for a long time. We came together when, as an ex-alum of Imperial College London, I was doing a bit of get-to-know crypto with the college, and Alan was a student there. Him and his partner at the time raised one of the very early ICOs. I think it was 2016, if I'm not...
Yeah, 2017.
2017, but one of the early ICOs. And the next thing you knew, with the appreciation in crypto, there was a $35 million pool for which to do development over a number of years. We know where we started, Alan. We started with an ICO token that did absolutely nothing, but people seem to put a lot of value on. Let's talk about what have been the major milestones in the technological move forward to get to where you are now, and having done that, what businesses can you now bolt on to the top of that?
Yeah, for sure. So maybe let's start right after the ICO, right? We set out, sort of unlike these guys in application, we're the plumbing. We're not a specific use case, or to a degree, I guess, it's a platform play, but it's very general purpose, what you can just build on the base blockchain. There's no specific sector I could say we're in. But we started in live event ticketing. So we built that out from 2017. The real plan was secondary markets, how you deal with the ticket access right, was an early sort of NFT of how you deal with access rights to events. So fast forward a few years, we built a company in Los Angeles called FanDragon, and did a deal with Live Nation, Ticketmaster, various sort of smaller guys in that sector, with this wallet delivery solution built on our blockchain. And in doing those deals, we were originally Ethereum-based, obviously having done our ICO there. And we looked at how do we productize this for an enterprise, a public company or a big entity to really make it usable. And in those days, it was significantly less so than today. So what emerged out of that is what's now called a layer 2. We just had to do the sort of hygiene factors, right? The stuff has to scale when you've got a big on sale. You have to be able to do it quickly, tell people, yep, you got your ticket, and do it cost effectively. And when you're sitting there with the CTO, you can't tell him it's whatever, 200 grand a year plus minus 50%. We needed to get very firm on what those fees are. So that's where it started, and because obviously from 2017 onwards, the crypto market went through, some ups and downs, but net we ended up with significantly more sort of treasury to deploy. So we productized Aventus into this layer 2, this infrastructure we could build any of these applications on, and then started looking wider afield. So immediately after that, we went into loyalty. We're now active in sort of 8 territories globally there, mostly developing economies. After that was supply chain, so a couple of gold deals, but really found a niche in soft commodities, sort of trade finance through the supply chain there. Then into video games, sort of play-to-earn economies, looking at different structures on how we could do still fungible tokens then. And most recently, I'd say probably beginning of last year, took a swing at the NFT side of things. So we're a little different in how we've rolled out to others in that we were public open blockchain, well, layer 2, but very much enterprise focused. So not anybody could send a transaction on our network. We rolled out slowly, tried to make sure we're disciplined in it, learned that sort of fundamentals first, get the network right, not too publicly, get businesses using it, drive transactions. And now we're at a point where we've kind of done that. We've driven maybe 15 million transactions across the first year of being active, generated fees. It's a proof of stake network, so you generate fees for people, had great turnout in that in the first year. And now it's looking at really opening that up to the community and letting anybody use Aventus sort of beyond us.
Great stuff. Thank you very much. So switching gears, we're going to switch gears just a little bit here, and we're going to talk about Polkadot. Everybody here is obviously embedded with that, and I'm just going to split this up into 2 parts. And if you 2 guys can answer the first part, Al, you get the second part, and we'll get through this hopefully in 5 or 6 minutes. So I remember attending a presentation that Gavin gave at Imperial College, which was a very hard ticket to get. I remember, and he revealed Polkadot, or was one of the reveals of Polkadot, and my reaction at the time was, wow. Blockchains just became 3-dimensional, and it was and we've been big fans of Polkadot ever since. But my question to Luke and David is talk a little bit about what Polkadot, what the structure of Polkadot means to you, you know, how you deploy it, what sort of features you find attractive and appealing in the businesses you're running.
Sure. So I think Polkadot's really interesting for a few reasons. One is so prediction markets just architecturally are a meta institution. So you can have a lot of ways of collecting information, but prediction markets sort of roll all that up, and so just the way Polkadot is architected as a meta, you know, layer 0 blockchain was just a natural fit. That's kind of a key design choice. You know, the technology. I think you can ask most any engineer about the validity and the technical prowess. And then thirdly is the people. You know, I've been in this space for a long while, and the people. These are, you know, folks that you really want to work with in the Polkadot ecosystem for sure.
Sure, Lucas.
We first started thinking about how we can scale past Ethereum in 2018, and at the time, it was all about ETH 2.0, and today it's still about ETH 2.0. And I think actually, I think I kind of was already skeptical of the idea of ETH 2.0 back then, because it just reminded me of this giant Windows Vista, let's refactor our entire operating system and be delayed forever kind of project. And maybe so far I've been proven right, unfortunately. But we started looking at alternatives, and being based in Berlin and talking a lot to the Pery that was and still is mostly located in Berlin, the main development team behind it. We ultimately got the best sort of overall picture of a technology that makes sense, where we believe that blockchains will go in the future. Another very important part was just governance being built in at the core layer, and Polkadot's approach to it. Because one thing you realize when building blockchains is that it's very hard to govern a very decentralized, mostly computer-based network. But if you can't govern it, then you're going to get stuck in not being able to innovate at all, because you'll continuously need to upgrade and add new functionality. And so from there on, we started actually working as one of the first projects. We launched our proof of stake chain that was largely based off of Polkadot's consensus and everything in the same months as Polkadot. So after Kusama, but actually in the same month as Polkadot. And that was then sort of a very good test bed for us to start building out. And we just completed our migration to a parachain about 2 weeks ago, or you could say some parts are even still ongoing. And I think really the sort of looking into the future, what we're excited about it is Polkadot has a consensus layer that we don't need to worry about. Security is taken care of, but it gives us governance, and we have beyond that the power to do whatever we want with it, and specialize much more than sort of if you think of these general purpose EVM chains that I believe ultimately won't be able to scale as well and be adjusted to what you actually need, right? It's like this. It's like trying to do everything in Microsoft Word. Sooner or later, you'll need to start use a bit more powerful tool. Yeah.
Cool. Very interesting indeed. I mean, if I remember one of the things that sort of stuck in my mind, and I'm sure Gavin's here or going to be here soon, so I don't want to put words in his mouth, but he just said something simple well, if we're going to do a blockchain, you don't need to build the same thing every time over and over again. Yeah. It's let's build the unique parts, which was a pretty simple idea, but wasn't deployed before. You mentioned, Lucas, you're on a parachain now, so that's what we call the Ambassadors Club in Polkadot. It's and so Alan, who is aspiring to get a parachain slot soon, Alan, tell us what a parachain slot is, how you get one, how much it costs, and what it means.
Yeah, for sure. So maybe let me just start with the why, just to add a little bit onto these guys. I think the real vision that we see for why we want to now move, because we're on Ethereum right now, deriving our security from there, right? But why the move from Ethereum to Polkadot, alongside many of the reasons sort of already mentioned here, but what I'd like to add is the kind of vision of interoperability, right? The ability, and it kind of plays to what a parachain is. We often make the analogy that you see blockchain to a degree rolling out like the internet did, various sort of intranets, siloed pockets of value, and you kind of want to connect all of that value up. And you see that again sort of emerging here in blockchain with great different flavors and siloed pockets of value. But we believe in the sort of Polkadot vision where you have various parachains, everybody can focus on their specific logic, but still have the ability to kind of talk across these different areas of value. So that interoperability piece is really key. So we feel like plugging into that. First of all, a parachain essentially means being a part of the wider network, being able to build your purpose, your specific logic on top of all of the base building blocks, some of the really hard stuff like consensus and whatnot taken care of, and you can focus on your particular niche that you do best, right? And then there are various of these slots available, and that's why we feel we now want to plug into that. So in rolling that out, I guess you guys have already been through this dance. We're learning and going along the way, but we'll probably start on Kusama with a sort of test net. That'll likely happen Q3 this year. And then once we've learned everything, we've been in production built on Substrate, which is the sort of open source blockchain element of Polkadot, from significantly before Polkadot was launched. Unfortunately, we couldn't get involved immediately because it's already production chain and we need to migrate that. Now, many people have, or some people have already done that. Polkadot's building tools to make that easier, but we want to learn first in the test network environment and then migrate all of our sort of production grade ongoing sort of value we're adding to our clients today onto that network as well.
And what are we talking about here? We've got to put a sticker price on this.
Well, I mean, it's gone from...
How does it work? How does it work? I know it's not simple.
Sure, there's the auction process, right? So we would go forward and say, we want to do this, and then either you can pay for it yourself, or other people can kind of contribute. We feel, I think the best way, and I believe you guys did similar, is to get the community involved. They can essentially help lend in the dot that is needed to secure your slot in the auction. I think recently we've seen chains go for as little as $15 million. At times it's been near $1 billion. Maybe you can correct me if you know the exact numbers. But
that's about right.
Yeah, really high numbers. It's coming down a little bit more now, but we'll see as the market evolves. So we feel like it's a good time in market to get in there and hopefully secure it for the next, 18 months or so.
I mean, one comparison, like you asking what it costs. Well, like the alternative is to run your own proof of stake network. We did that before our annual inflation was about 5% of our token supply. So the cost of not being on Polkadot, you could argue, is 5% per year. And that's also a pretty big number and puts kind of like the cost of a slot into perspective. The first ones were probably, the first couple of slots were probably costing about the same as what these projects would have paid for proof of stake inflation for the 2 years that you get your slot. But now we're already seeing that this is getting a lot cheaper. And so in a way, it is definitely already delivering more money more value for the money than you would by just running your own network.
That's an excellent point. So if anyone's wondering what they want to buy their young, technologically oriented kids for Christmas, a parachain slot might not be a bad idea. Right. I think we've just about run out of time. I did have a final question on regulation, but I hate regulation so much I'm not even going to answer it. I'm just going to thank these great guys, David, Lucas, Alan. Thank you so much. Hope you guys got something out of it, and congratulations. Well done.
Yeah, thank you.